anyways, here, War Game News for June 11th. For June 19th, episode 11, I should say, of War Game News. Funny thing, I was talking to Robert Carroll, KilRoyWasHere, right? Super nice guy. So we're talking for about 2 hours. You know, we had some time to kill. And I just told him, excuse me, and I just told him that I got back from buying tobacco on the secondary hand market of tobaccos that are non-existent anymore. The company closed down, so I paid double the price. And while I was talking to Robert, and I thank you, Robert, for this, don't worry, you'll get yours, I got an email, but I was 1 hour too late. It so happens that my favorite tobacco place, Smoking Pipes, are moving, right? So when you move boxes. So he moved the box, and guess what he found? McClellan tobacco, what I just paid 3 times the price for while talking to Robert for 2 hours. They had VIP only. I'm a VIP. Come and buy your McClellan tobacco at regular prices. Man, I jumped on the bandwagon, sold out. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so for the news today, oh, I like this camera. Come on. So for the news today, Jeff McAleer of the Gaming Gang is back. What do you mean he's back? He's back after a wicked operation, a wicked heart operation, a triple bypass. I'm glad to see him back. And he's got a softer voice, but hey, he'll get loud. He's Irish. Tiny Battle Publishing's got a new game out called Scream Aim Fire. Mark gave me a heads up about this. I read it. A game is designed by Jay Kirkpatrick and the art is by Ilya Kudryashov. This is a solo platoon level, a solo squad level tactical game. And this is on the aftermath of D-Day. The player takes part of American infantry and armor pushing inland to take objectives using a dice roll action system that gives you a guaranteed number of actions each round. Well, not always the exact machine gun, but not always the same type of things you need. I just read, my eyes got off the page and I can't see anything anymore. So what you get with this game is 2 17 by 22 inch game maps, 140 counters, full color rules, 1 player aid sheet, 36 player aid cards, or 36 players cards, I'm sorry, and 5 scenarios. Get it while it's hot, because these games, they go. And Emanuela Sant'Andrea from Vento Nuovo Games, that's in Italy, they're pulling a Kickstarter June 24th. That's like next Thursday. And it's, you play the Japanese side, and it's called Black Swan. Check it out. I'm gonna check it out. Because, and it's funny, a lot of people now are making, I'm gonna say the enemy for lack of a better word, because the other side has enemies and it's us. When I say us, like whatever, World War II. A lot of people are making games on the other side. I know Dan Versnet started a long time ago, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, I could be wrong. People, enjoy the show.
Hello, this is Carlo Mazzini, and this time the greatest day in history and games is June 22nd, 1941. The day when the entire world held its breath. The day of Operation Barbarossa. The agreements included in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of August 1939 came as a shock to the Western governments. The two great totalitarian ideologies, seemingly antithetical, had joined together in partitioning East Europe in their respective areas of influence. Their successful German invasion of Poland had ended with the Soviet Red Army soldiers invading the unfortunate country from the east and peacefully shaking hands with their Wehrmacht colleagues in a climate of understanding and mutual respect. And preliminary negotiations for the USSR to actually join the Axis were even taken. However, that was a bit more complicated. Even if the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany signed other economic and diplomatic agreements, sometimes even to circumvent the trade and supply sanctions by United Kingdom and France, these agreements were clearly destined not to last too long. For one part, the US has violated some of the clauses, exerting undue pressure in the Balkans and other areas of Europe. On the other side, Hitler had not forgotten his ideological premises, dictating a drastic and violent modification of the demographic and ethnographic balances of Ukraine, Belarus, and Western Russia itself. Those areas had to be thoroughly Germanized, with a military invasion leading up to deportation or even extermination of the Slavic population. Stalin, however, felt confident that Hitler would not make any offensive moves, both for tactical and strategic reasons. The Red Army was too strong, and Germany would not risk war on two fronts. And he was wrong. Stalin underestimated the two fundamental factors that undermined his provisions. The Red Army was actually much weakened by the political purges of the Officer Corps, as seen during the disastrous invasion of Finland. And Wehrmacht High Command was still under the effect of the triumph against France, believing that nothing could stand against a determined German offensive. And so this offensive began on June 22, when almost 4 million German soldiers crossed the border and overwhelmed the Soviet first line of defense. The main objective for the Germans was reaching the so-called AA line, which ran from Arkhangelsk on the Arctic Sea to Astrakhan in the Caucasus, essentially depriving USSR of all its western portion, containing most of the agricultural and industrial resources of the country. Hitler, even against the warnings of many of his civilian officers that occupying such a vast area would represent more a drain than an advantage for the German economy, considered this the prime objective of the offensive, together with the annihilation of the Red Army. And he too was wrong. Even with catastrophic losses, the Red Army retreated but did not collapse. USSR used the gain time to ramp up its industrial potential of the factories beyond the Urals, and in time received decisive logistical aid from its new Western allies. Also, German troops were not motorized enough to keep up with the very strict timetable of the offensive, and the objectives, Leningrad, Moscow, the Caucasus fields, were pursued through scattered and dispersed maneuvers which failed to reach any single one of them. Operation Barbarossa ended in the Russian winter, with German troops almost on the doors of Leningrad and Moscow, but still very far from the precious oil resources of the south, and with the supply lines dangerously stretched after so many successful advances. The following Soviet counteroffensive then stabilized the front, and even if the Wehrmacht renewed their efforts in a much more concentrated southern offensive in the spring of 1942, the situation was already compromised. The first decisive German invasion had missed its small window of opportunity for general and not just dramatic but still local success, and would only be the first step towards later disasters such as Stalingrad and Kursk. Then, in 1944, Operation Bagration, simultaneous with overlord landings in Normandy, would eventually seal the fate of the Third Reich. Among the many games dedicated to Barbarossa and the following operations, this time I have chosen to speak about Holdfast, East Front. Second edition of a previous title, East Front is a strong addition to the Holdfast series of block games dedicated to many fundamental military campaigns of World War II and beyond. Together with the classic hidden unit with degrading strength values, Holdfast East Front uses a resource point mechanic, forcing players to plan well their actions, considering the limited assets at their disposal. Also, a dynamic activation structure allows units to freely choose the order in which they move and fight, even mixing the different actions. The result is a very simple tactical rendition of modern warfare with aspects like spoiling attacks, feints, unit rotation, and higher scale coordination represented in a very elegant and plausible way. The game contains several scenarios, allowing you to recreate this titanic struggle between Germany and the Soviet Union in quick and intense gaming sessions. Also, the components are absolutely gorgeous and truly capture the vastity of the areas interested by this fundamental portion of the global conflict of World War II. So, that's it for this time. See you on the next battlefields. Ciao!
And I'm Grant.
GIMPY of the GIMPY Gamer checks out Company of Heroes. He's going big solo, also 2 Minutes to Midnight preview, and Point Blank Bootcamp number 15, bogging and unbogging. And the Player's Aid. God, that hurts saying that. Does Grant know my wargame collection better than his wife? Anyways, they changed their mind on a monthly debriefing episode 5, plus a preview of 2 Minutes to Midnight from Plague Island Games, and unboxing Dawn of Battle from Worthington. I'm waiting for that game. Also reviewing War Room from Nightingale Games. And there's that beautiful face of Jeff McAleer. Deluxe Tunnels and Trolls. It's a review and a page through review. Like Gimpy does his review through, well, Jeff does his page through review. You know what I'm saying? Nice to see you back, Jeff. And our Spanish friends can get entertained in Spanish by the War Game Reviewer. Entre Pelotas 21, so that means in between Beota Con, there's an interview with Jose Maria Diaz. I read that. Language is easy. And from Emanuele Sant'Andrea, Orange Swan. This is a teaser because it's gonna happen June 24th as a Kickstarter. Play the Japanese. Kick some hiney. JK Wargames plays Storm Above the Reich, a game review, a game designed by Jeremy White and Mark Hasted. That's the one from GMT. And we got Ronnie Tucker here, artist and illustrator, and on the sideshow, he stars at Nashville, plays guitar. He's doing Operation Jubilee from Strategy and Tactics. Matt White, the artist, the war game artist, is doing Combat Commander Europe, a game designed by the late, great Chad Jensen. And Tony of Tony's Board Life is alive and well, playing Long Street Attacks, the Round Tops, turns 1, 2, and 3, and also Picket Duty, Scenario 1, Phase 2, and the prior, which is Scenario 1, Phase 1. Capiche? And the Hugh Hefner of War Games, War D-Roll, plays live! Advanced what? ASLSK, Advanced Squad Leader, something. Oh my god, I forget. Anyways, Priority Target Live. And the minister, that is Joel Toppin. I was trying to get in touch with the man, Joel Toppin, for our everything you wanted to know about war games, but we're afraid to ask because he's a big Vassal guy. We wanted to know information on Vassal, but he wasn't. Look, he wasn't available. The man's a busy man. So he's checking out Wing Leader Expansion number 4. Legends, 1937 to 1945. A game designed by, and here's a mouthful, Lee Birmingham Wood. And Mo of Mo's Game Table is doing 2 minutes to midnight from Plague Island Games. This is a Kickstarter preview. And the man who goes by the name of Jeff is smitten with Storm Above the Reich, a game designed by Jeremy White and Gina Davis this one here. I don't know, you're gonna have to correct me, but I'm never wrong. You, on the other hand, are questionable. ID Jester is making his way back with the Dark Summer Normandy 1944. Open the box, that's his unboxing. And prior to that, he gives you a tutorial of the second expansion of Dominion, which I played Dominion. I don't know if the second expansion, I'm not going to say anything. Riccardo Mazzini with his Warlog vlog. 3 war games for the summer in 13 minutes. Not in 13 minutes. The game is called 13 minutes. You thought I was an idiot. Come on, shut up. And wargaming is alive and well in Italy with Mauro Faina. He's got a load of videos here, man. Let's Play Gambolini e Catradra. He's also on with his Gianni Zero Nero and doing a lot of stuff. I mean, look at all these videos. Wargaming is alive and well in Italy. And on Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, he checks out Command and Colors Ancients. Brutium, which means the ugly whatever. Combat Commander, Sonnenwender Commando, I'm assuming, whatever. And Hood Strikes North from MMP, or from the Great Battles of American Civil War. Yeah, about that. Also, a week ago, he had Ancients, but I digress. Check out his channel. And the man who made me lose my McClellan tobacco. Do you know how much I love McClellan? I loved it so much, that when I stopped smoking about 5 years ago, that was the last puff I took of a McClellan. Then they went out of business. And then I bought it 3 times the price. And then Carroll, KilRoyWasHere. Well, what can I say? Let's wish for karma. And Harsh Rules is unboxing War Room Jumbo Pack Expansion. If anybody knows the name or email of Larry, the guy who designed this, I'm trying to get in touch with him. Help me out, somebody. World War II solitaire board game channel plays Ostkrieg. World War II Eastern Front, a game designed by Mitchell Ledford, and Gregory M. the Animal Smith. And the game everyone's talking about, Atlantic Chase, the Kriegsmarine against the Home Fleet, 1939 to 1942. There's a Morse code something there, and it says Intercept Volume 1 by Jeremy White, published by GMT. I used to know a woman who came from Mexico. What a darling of a woman. And she would say, one day I'm going to the Inca. I'm not going to ask her what Inca is. But we were together one day, her husband, whatever, and we were going shopping. We were going shopping at IGA. And she says, oh, you're going to Iga. And then it hits me. Oh my God. She's phonetically spelling everything. Ah! Best mole I've ever had. My brother from another mother, Jan Heinemann, number 73 Strategic Command, World War II. Wie versus? It's in Deutsch. I didn't know he spoke Dutch. And the chief of bonding with board games is live with an interview of Andrew Rourke, designer of Coalition, going to be published by Phalanx. Hex to Hex looks at Long Street Attacks, Part 4 and Part 5. A game designed by the Dream Team designer Herman Lattman, published by Revolution Games. Kevin of the Big Board checks out Ranger. That's funny. He's usually more of a strategic man. He is absolutely tactical in this one. And Combat Board Games is looking at some games designed by Noah Patterson. And the strongman of war games, Rob Oren, learning companies of Hero Live. And I must say, Rob took a beating with the COVID thing, and he's looking much better. Good for you, Rob. I watched Wise Guy yesterday. I watched him do the Enemy Action Ardennes live, well, not the live play. Actually, he was talking about it in a preview. And good-looking man, very studied. Wise Guy History is doing Enemy Action Ardennes live play. Check it out, because he's doing also Enemy Action Kharkov. That's the preview he's doing. Not Enemy Action Ardennes. Kharkov. Grognard of the Year, voted by you, Jim Ozarski, is playing Vatum Sambra for Sharp Practice 2. Also, the Battle of Waterloo for Absolute Emperor. And a very big chain of command. I don't know what that is, but it is big. And that's it for this week for Jim Ozarski. Grognard of the Year 2020, voted by you, of No Enemies Here. Look at this guy, legendary tactic is kicking it. 10 reasons to game solo. Also, South African Unrest, a card game. How to play Africa Corps. He's going back. Portuguese Empire. Card by card, he's saying. Axis and Allies, turn 5. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a man to be reckoned with. BLASTPOP showing us his merch. I should do some merch. I'm gonna buy that. Man of Iron, Tri-Pack, GMT game, and Richard Berg design. I got it. The question is, do you? And my brother, STUKAJOE, previews a video of Coalition, a game designed by Andrew Rourke and to be published by Phalanx. And Dr. Cody Carlson of The Discriminating Gamer looks at a Risk version of Game of Thrones. And look at him there, trying to look Italian. Little Wars TV are playing the Battle of Ulm. Quick Strike After Action report. And because I'm into pipes and this is my channel, so are you! Ladies and gentlemen, a Danish-made Übermünchen sandblasted bent brandy saddle stem. It's 9mm for those people who want to put a filter, but look at that pipe. Look at the joining between the pipe itself, and the stem. I could get into detail, but no. That could be, and I'm gonna say it, woolly mammoth molar. I'll say it again, woolly mammoth molar. Yes, you can buy that. And my Latin friend Liz Taylor, and I don't mean Latin South America, on Beyond Solitaire Podcast 44, Liz is interviewing... Yeah, that. And the man whose blue blows me away. Seek out and play. Don't worry, that out of focus thing is purposely done. What a genius. How to play up front with vehicles. 3-minute board game looks at Spartacus. And he says in about 3 minutes. But he'll do it. Great channel. And Artie of ARDWULF'S LAIR is grumbling about everything you wanted to know about war games, but we're afraid to ask, which I was on, obviously. And we spoke about Vassal, and I gave Stigler an invitation, and well, I think he refused it. It's personal. Also, he's unboxing Cradle of Civilization by Compass Games, and counter clipping where we shoot the poop, Kriegspiel with Jim Wazarski, Grognard of the Year 2020, voted by you on No Enemies Here.
Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of Wargame Review Institutions. First game we did a first look at on YouTube is GDW's The Battle of Prague from Frank Chadwick. It's part of their Series 120 games, which are basically games that can be played within 2 hours. This is about Frederick the Great's victory over the Austrian army in 1757 during the 7 Years' War. Look through the rule book. It looks really easy to learn and really playable, so I'm hoping to review this in a week or so. And the next one we did a first look at is GDW Phase Line Smash. It's a solitaire game about the Gulf War. It's got a huge rule book and looks extremely detailed, so if you like really detailed games with huge rule books, you're going to like it. And then we did a first look at Freecore from Fiery Dragon. Looks like an interesting little micro game. And the last video we did was of Judges Guild Dragon's Hall. It's a D&D adventure, first edition for 1 to 4 players. It's kind of set up like a choose-your-own-adventure game, but there's no map in it, so it's old school in that you have to draw the map as you're moving through the dungeon, and you have to keep track of what paragraph you came from, because you may get to sections where it says go back to origin. Usually a choose-your-own-adventure will tell you exactly what paragraph to go to, but this one will tell you to go to origin, so you got to keep track of where you are. So it's a very simple dungeon delve, but it's kind of cool if you're looking for a blast from the past. I used 5th edition rules with it. I just ported it to 5th edition, no problem. Thanks for watching, and have a good evening.
Hello everyone, this is Michel Leviathan-Sorbet from the Polish YouTube channel Wojennik TV. As usual, here is my weekly roundup of the content published on Wojennik TV during the last week. On Sunday I started with a playthrough of Watergate, but this wasn't a normal playthrough, it was a solo playthrough of this game. Watergate is a game primarily designed for 2 players, during which one of the players will take control of Richard Nixon and his administratives, and the second one will take control of journalists, trying to bring to the light of day all the details concerning the Watergate affair. But this is also a game which can be soloed thanks to a very interesting solo mode which is available on BoardGameGeek. So if you're interested in giving this game a try in solo mode, you should check this solo mode on BGG. On Tuesday, the video in English, and I decided to publish the review of Raid on Takao. Raid on Takao is a game published by Mizo Games, which is set in the final stages of the Second World War. This is not a war game, but it is a game set during World War II. We will incarnate citizens of the city of Takao, today's Kaohsiung on Taiwan, and we will try to survive American bombings of the island, and also we will try to overcome different dangers. On Wednesday, the Polish unboxing, and this was the unboxing of Godspeed by Pandasaurus Games. I presented the deluxe edition of this game, which is a game set in the 20th century, but not exactly, because it is a game about the cosmic race, about the space race between the major powers, but its objective is not the moon landing, it is to colonize and to control planets set in a distant universe. So this is an alternate version of our story. A game with tons of interesting components. If you want to take a look at how they look, you can just check this video. Finally, on Friday, the Polish review, and this time it was the review of By Stealth and Sea, published by Danversen Games. A game about an extremely interesting, intriguing topic. The game is set in World War II, and we can take control of frogmen from one of the special Italian units who participated in World War II, and we will try to infiltrate Allied ports in the Mediterranean and to sink enemy vessels. Extremely interesting topic, extremely pleasant game. I reviewed it in Polish, but I will soon also publish a review in English. And so those were the 4 videos that I published on Wojennik TV during the last week. I wish you a fantastic weekend, good gaming, and see you next time.
The man I want to be when I grow up. HB, Harold Buchanan interviews Anata Gupta at San Diego History Con or HistCon, May 2021. And look at him. He's missing an ear. He's pulling a Van Gogh. And John Krantz is live with Compass Game Town Hall episode 24. And dare I say it, Grumpy Bill is on. That's a joke, Bill. Come on. And Tim Korchnoi of Bare Bones Wargaming is doing top 5 East Front games and books. You know, Tim of Bare Bones Wargaming is an aficionado of history and especially the Eastern Front. You want to know something about the Eastern Front? Ask Timmy. And the cop that is Wayne Hansen plays turns 1 and 2 of Stalingrad. Solitaire, a game designed by Gary Graber. Also, he's doing a patron game giveaway. Actually, he's saying who won the game and reverts back to parts 2 of turns 3 and 4 of Stalingrad Solitaire. And on the channel that brings you World War II week by week as it's happening in real time, today, June 1942, part 1 of Reinhard Heydrich, his death. Good.
Hello all, today Kilroy goes off the shelf on random event tables. So why do I have a Dungeon Master's Guide from Advanced D&D sitting on my table? Well, that was my first encounter or experience with random event tables. If you go back to the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide, there is the random dungeon generator, and as part of the random dungeon generator, there's several random monster encounters. And, you know, this is charts and charts and charts of rolling to figure out, you know, what monster you're going to encounter in what lair or what terrain or what environment. And so that was my first experience with random event type generators. My second one was Conquistador. So the Age of Exploration, an Avalon Hill game. And that game had the random event table right there on the board here. It's just a portion of the board. But as you can see there, you had the random event table, and it dealt with taxation and political events and affected the game in that fashion. Now, that's exactly how random event tables started. They started off as a table or a chart on a board, on a player aid, or in the rules. And then they quickly, moved to chit pulls, where you pull a chit and the chit represented a certain event, and then migrated into cards, which cards are probably the predominant way or primary way that random events are handled today. In fact, card-driven games usually have not only, action points or command points that allow you to do things, but they usually have events as well. The whole coin system has that aspect of using cards in multiple ways and having events or historical events and flavor that comes from that. So, that's the primary way now, but, the tables are still alive and still persist in games. It's my understanding that, Richard Berg used to love putting random event tables into games and might have some kind of odd or bizarre effects that come from that. Some of my examples from my collection, from here, We Shall Fight on the Marne. Here's a pretty simple random event table. It's just a six-sided die, and then you roll, and it affects gameplay in some fashion. The Russo-Georgian War of 2008, it has a little bit more detailed random events for either the 2004 or 2008 scenarios, and they go a little bit different. The 2008 actually affects victory points based on the random events, and the 2004 can actually end the game early. And one of the events is that the game ends early, so it actually shortens the gameplay. And what these are usually trying to do is they're trying to give you some historical feel or try to model historical events. In that vein, you have the Joan of Arc Victory from Turning Point Simulations, which is kind of a sister company of Against the Odds magazine. And it has a random event that is based on, historical events and trying to, convey or give you some feel for the history of what was going on during that time. So you have some historical events here that add to the gameplay. Continuing on with that, Against the Odds Apocalypse in the East has a very detailed random event that, again, that's kind of going to the history, maybe not specific events, but maybe more general events that were happening during that time, and kind of giving you some feel or flavor. This one's a pretty specific event here as well, and they can get relatively detailed on how they affect gameplay in that regard. And I find that magazine games, that random event tables are alive and well in magazine games. I find them more in magazine games than I do in box games nowadays, or maybe it's just the games I'm buying. But magazine games, tend to deal with, somewhat, sometimes off the wall or off the beaten path type events or battles. And so they're trying to add a little bit more history or context to that. And so I think that's why they might, tend to, use random event tables in that regard. Here is Munich War, which is a pre-World War II. It's kind of a what-if scenario or hypothetical World War II situation from a magazine game. And it has an event table here at the bottom here that deals with weather, and then also deals with when some of the neutral countries might enter into the game. This is all about, the build up to World War II and maybe an early attack by Germany. And so you have players maybe different countries maybe sorting out differently, kind of doing different alliances. And so that affects that. But one of the notable things here is you see weather. A lot of games a lot of war games have weather charts or what happened with the weather during a certain period, especially if it's going over a long period of time that might be comprised of multiple seasons. Then you might have a weather effects table, and that's kind of a random events table as well. I mean, the event is weather, and so you're trying to model what the weather is. Now, this is not limited to, grand tactical or strategic type games. Tactical games gets into play with this as well. This is from Band of Brothers, Lock and Load Band of Brothers, the first edition. And this scenario here, this is dealing with D-Day, and there was the cricket, which was the little click-clacker that the paratroopers used to communicate. And so there's a whole random event table here on using the cricket and having communication and what might happen. And one of the events might even bring you to this miscellaneous events, which you can see these are very detailed here. And what these are getting here, this is on the tactical level, so this is really mainly getting into narrative and giving you a little bit more color and flavor and feel for that event or for what was going on the ground at a very tactical level. And you can see they're almost like a story, putting the narrative forward. And so this is from Lock and Load Tactical, and that series was also continued into, or Lock and Load actually did World at War, and then they extended into World at War Storming the Gap, World at War E5 Storming the Gap. And what you had here is you had a combination of chits and random event tables, because you would put a chit. This is a card pool now in 85 World War E5. The original World War was chits, but you'd pull that and it would tell you whether you need to look at the event table. And then here's the event table. And then you roll on the event table, and then there are specific things that happen that affect gameplay on in the event. Now, you don't have to play with the events. I think that's sometimes is considered an optional rule in some of these scenarios, but it would actually pull out events that affect the gameplay. Also, on a tactical level, an oldie but a goodie, Battles and Leaders from Yaquinto. You know, this game right here is tactical level. I think it's like maybe it's at the regiment level. It's about the lowest tactical level I can find for Civil War. But they had a leader hit table here. And so what this was doing, if your leader got hit, there's like, 11 to 66. This is the old 2 different colored dice, roll them, and then you read them off one number in front of the other. So you've got these different options here, but they get very, very detailed, as you can see here. I don't want to play anymore. So, again, getting back to the narrative, this is more at the tactical level, so they're trying to give you a story or a feel or a narrative of the combat and what was happening at that time. So, and that's one of the reasons we have random event tables. A lot of sometimes they're in there. Sometimes they're in there for the weather, because you're just trying to give a feel for what the different optional weather could be. Sometimes you're trying to give a historical flavor. You're trying to get some events, especially if it's a game that is covering a longer period of time. You might want to get some of the events that happened during that period that could affect that conflict. So there's a historical feel. There is sometimes there's the fog of war, because I mean you're dealing with sometimes perfect knowledge. You know how many units they have. You know what their combat values are, what their movement values are. You can look at the board. You know what the terrain is. So adding a random event gives a little bit of a fog of war. Adds a little bit of chaos to the game. So it kind of changes it up. It adds to replayability, and it gives the players some extra challenges that they have to deal with. So there could be numerous reasons why you have random events. Sometimes, some criticisms are that they're kind of had to lazy game design, because you have your game, but then you don't really have a lot of historical fluff or feel, so you throw in some random events to try to spruce it up a little bit. There's also the aspect of random events mess up gameplay. That if you're playing games for a very competitive reason, or play war games because it's all about the head-to-head and who's going to win, then random events kind of mess with that and kind of mess your flow and mess with your strategies. And so some people don't like that. If you're playing games for the narrative and for the historical feel, and you want to get more immersed into what was happening, what could happen, how could things change in a certain battle, then you might like random events tables if they're done right. If they're adding to the what if aspect and not just throwing some random things in there. Of course, that's what they're called. They're called random events. They can be, as easy as a weather table, or they can be very, very complex and get into, adding to the victory conditions or shortening the gameplay. Example of one that's relatively unique is from Liberia, Descent into Hell. You've got this random event table, which is so big I can't even get it on the screen. It's bigger than the map, okay? This is a huge random event table, and this is getting into some very strange events. I'm not going to read all of them here because they might not be suitable for all audiences. But there's all kinds of different events that are on this table that, you know, really trying to get the feel and the effect of that time period and what was happening and how things could potentially, you know, affect the outcome of this conflict. So what do you guys think about that? Are you a purist and say and believe that, you know, random events are just too random? We don't need them. I want to know what my combat values are. I want to know what my movement values are. I want to know what the terrain looks like. And I want to know any special parameter rules, but then I want to go at it. I want to see what I can do with this unit and what it did historically. Or are you more of into the narrative? You like the narrative, you like the feel, you like getting immersed into the history and what was going on, and like to get a little bit more flavor or fluff that goes along with it. And so in that respect, do you like random events tables? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Where do you guys stand on that? But I thought I'd share with you some random events today.
Another week, another show. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and if you wanna, for God's sakes, I was trying to be like, one of those auctioneer guys. Please like and subscribe. Actually, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Say something. And if you want to support this channel, please, by all means. And have a good weekend. Be nice. Everybody, just be nice. What the hell is wrong with be nice? Be nice!